Hi everyone, welcome to Appliance Advisors. I'm Francesco, joined as always by my co-host Dennis. Today, we tackled a previous question before, but today we're going to talk about another very common question we get, and that's what is the best type of oven for roasting? We've talked about baking before, now let's talk roasting.
Listen, I think for most people, any oven will roast, of course, but really we're talking about the fuel type in the oven itself. And as we talked earlier about electric being the best baking type of oven, on roasting, really gas is. Gas is a moist heat. And historically, when we're roasting, we want to keep that moisture in the food. So, gas would be the way to go. To that end, people will then ask, the natural question is convection. And what's your feeling on if they have a gas oven, they've chose that, when should they use gas convection versus just gas, and turning the oven on normal and just not having that convection fan kick in and circulate?
Absolutely. So the nice thing with convection, and really when you're making those proteins, like maybe it's a whole chicken or something like that, I think using the convection in conjunction with like a roast, something like that, really gets you that even browning all the way across the oven. So that makes it nice. So you have that even cooking throughout, the brown kind of color on a chicken turkey, Thanksgiving turkey, something like that. You kind of get that browning all the way throughout, and it certainly helps speed up the cooking time. So, the Thanksgiving turkey, again, is kind of that one easy example. It's going to be about 25% faster, and you can cook it at a lower temperature when you're using convection, especially inside a gas oven, to keep that moisture in there too.
Yeah, and having done it a bunch of times, and if you talk to certain people, there's all different tips and tricks on how to even use that convection mode. So some people will say if a meat or a roast is much over 10 or 15 pounds, by using convection, because it's really air, to your point, circulating, cooking from the outside in, as opposed to just using traditional bacon or roast in an oven where it's coming from the bottom. Sometimes they feel as though the outside cooks faster than the inside, and you can kind of get a drier outside and a less cooked inside. There are ways around it. Either you actually will drop your temperature in convection, or some people will do traditional bake or roast on their oven, not using that fan for 75% of the meal, and then at the end use convection to maybe brown it and touch it up. All that said, none of this should be overwhelming. I think it's trial and error, but also so many of the ovens today they call it a master cook feature, or a lot of times they have a very simple but interactive electronic display that will walk you through all these modes. I mean, heck, a lot of them will literally show you what rack to put it on, where to put the temperature probe, the temperature, and kind of take all the guesswork out of it. So you can make it as easy as you want, or if you're not, and you want to kind of go at it, have a little fun with it. But I think to your main point is convection really does help with that browning, will speed it up. You just want to make sure and play around with the doneness and not to overcook. So you're generally using about 25% less temperature than you would normally use if you're going to use convection the entire time.
Absolutely. And then, just to reiterate again, kind of, we talked about why gas is better for those proteins, adding that moisture back in. And just to reiterate the obvious on the other side, the electric oven just kind of dries out the meat. So, if you ever had dry chicken, a dry tenderloin, a roast, that electric oven kind of dries it out a little bit. So the gas does inject a little bit more moisture back into it to keep it kind of just tasting better. One other question too with gas is talk about LP a little bit. So liquid propane gas, if you need to use that.
Yeah. So liquid propane gas, most people don't want to have it, but that's generally they can't get natural gas either to their street or to their house or in that area. It's not the end of the world, but what liquid is just that. It's liquid. Think about it just in its simple word. It's a heavier, more dense gas heating. Yeah. And I will tell you, a lot of people will complain with liquid propane that they get pockets of browning on something because that liquid is just kind of moving around. Granted, you don't see it, but that air is just doesn't rotate around the oven quite as easily as a natural lighter gas. But, again, if you have liquid propane, I'm going to really tell you then, I want you to really pay attention and try that convection mode and play around with that, because that will help take the curse off of that liquid and try to move that air and help you a lot more, move that around the entire cavity.
Perfect. And just as far as kind of what you're looking for when you're looking at ovens or wall ovens that have these, if you're getting an induction range, an electric range, that's really always going to have an electric oven. Wall ovens, 99.9% of them at this point are really all electric ovens. Gas ranges, there's both ways. So you can get an all gas range with a gas top and a gas oven, or the option there for a dual fuel range where you have the gas top and an electric oven. So just so you know, when you're out there, there's definitely a lot of those options to kind of pick and choose from too.
And to drill that final point home, wall ovens are always electric. And that wasn't always the case, but now for sure. And so why is that? If we just said roasting's better, because if you think of most people, we don't just roast, and most of us aren't, we wouldn't call ourselves chefs. So
no, certainly not.
You bake a little bit, you roast a little bit, it's cookies, it's maybe some chicken tomorrow, so I think still for 99%, you're going to do fine either way.
Yeah.
But if you came in specifically and said, I roast, I don't bake, and that's what I want, we would probably tell you to think of some type of range with the gas oven being the best choice.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you.
And don't forget to follow us on social media for appliance tips and updates from Yale Appliance.
Your feedback is what shapes our series. Like what you saw? Give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you.
Stay informed and inspired on all your appliance needs. This is Appliance Advisors signing off.